right. What's up, everybody? John Marks here on a Wednesday evening, a show that does not have a name. We're coming up with a name, though. That's probably going to be what we talk about one of the nights this week. But yeah, a lot going on in the world. We're going to check in Las Vegas in about, 15 minutes or so. My buddy Mike Gill, who has been doing afternoons down in the Jersey Shore at 97.3 ESPN, is in Vegas. He's doing a show there all this week. So we'll check in and see exactly what is up in Vegas. When you heard that there was a Super Bowl in Vegas, a lot of people thought like, oh man, that's perfect. I actually thought like that is not a Super Bowl I want to go to. I've been to Las Vegas so many times. And when I was doing radio at the Fanatic, this is probably now 10, 12 years ago, somehow we got in with this advertiser that was doing the UFC stuff and was doing boxing matches. So they would send us out there and then we would do Radio Row and then we would stay for the fight and then fly home. So I was in Vegas, probably every other month for a good 2 years. And Vegas is cool, but on the big fights, Vegas gets a little bit crazy. So I can't even imagine what it's like this week and this weekend with the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. But we'll find out from Mike Gil. He's going to join us coming up here in about 15 minutes. So we're live every night at 9 o'clock on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter. And if you're not watching live, obviously you're watching on demand on YouTube. Subscribe at John Marks Media. You can view everything that we do, including last night's interview with Herb from Northeast Philly. It was a special one. Special is the key word right there. But thank you. We're nearly 1,200 subscribers, and that's in less than 4 weeks, and getting a ton of great feedback. So comment during the show in the comment box, comment after the show. Tell us what you think. And we'll get to some of those comments coming up because I was on Mike Missanelli's podcast yesterday. And I have a producer now, Steve Gallo, my producer, who will join us coming up here in a little bit. I asked him to compile the best comments from the interview or from the podcast, what people were saying about it. And some were not very complimentary of me, I'm assuming. So we'll do that coming up here. I don't know, at some point. Mike Gill coming up here in less than 15 minutes. If you're watching live, right now the 76ers are in the second half against the Warriors. They're down. Last time I looked up, they were down 5. And this is a 76ers team that seems like that they're reeling. And the trade deadline is upon us tomorrow at 3 p.m. So John Clark is reporting. Here's what he says. I'm told Daryl Morey and Elton Brand are very active on the phones exploring trade opportunities, but it's a slow market. It's my understanding there's not much to the Buddy Hield possibility right now, but the Sixers are looking at adding a big while Joel is out and a guard. So I'm sure the Sixers are looking to improve their team. I don't know what they're willing to trade. I wouldn't trade any of my future first-round draft picks or anything like that for him. Brian Windhorst had said, I believe this was earlier today, he had said that he expects the Sixers to make 1 to 3 trades before the 3 p.m. deadline tomorrow. Quote, they're now operating in talks like talking about Embiid, is going to come back and hopefully for the playoffs. So I'd expect Philly to make 1 to 3 trades before Thursday afternoon. I would also expect them to try. I'm not saying they're going to accomplish this. I would expect them to try to acquire players that either have expiring contracts or that have next year's salaries that are not fully guaranteed or that can be easily offloaded. Yeah, they're not looking to add long-term contracts. They're not like the whole thing with people were saying, well, we'll trade Tobias Harris and get something. The problem with trading a guy that's on an expiring contract is you're most likely, especially that big of a salary, you're most likely going to have to take contracts or a contract back that exceeds this year. They would have cleared that salary cap space because they're actually going to have a shot to go out there and spend money on the open market or have the flexibility to be able to make a trade and add a big name. But I'm fine with minor moves, and that's what it seems like when you listen to Windhorst and to John Clark. I'm good with a minor move, and I think that they should do that because who the hell knows? Embiid comes back with 2, 3, 4 weeks left in the season, and they catch fire, and stranger things have happened. The Eagles won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles, for Christ's sakes. But I'm not adding additional years with veteran contracts or anything like that. I like this roster, and I want to add to it, and I want the draft picks. I want young players. They need to be able to add some youth to this team too. So I would not expect a major move tomorrow. As far as bringing back Jimmy Butler, I seen that might have actually been you, Jimbo Slice, but somebody was saying it again last night. I mean, I don't see a lot of big moves happening at the trade deadline. This is something where Daryl Morey, again, he's getting paid a ton of money, $10+ million a year. This is where Daryl Morey needs to go out and earn his money in the offseason and construct this roster to where they can actually give their best chance to win a title. Doesn't it feel like the Sixers have already had their best chance to win a title? The Jimmy Butler, when he was there, the JJ Redick years, when Ben Simmons actually wasn't a ghost and wasn't completely spooked about shooting the basketball. So I don't know exactly what the mix would be, but I like the chemistry. I like Maxey. I don't know if you need another Max guy in here unless it's a guy that really fits with this roster, like a Zach LaVine. To me, I have absolutely no interest in that. So be curious to see what Daryl Morey does going forward here. And as far as Embiid, and this is something that I've worried about before, and it's a good comment here. At some point, if things go wrong, and Joel's already shown that when he gets heavily criticized, that he doesn't like it. So if another season falls apart and he gets heavily criticized and he turns into whatever the hell happens to him in the playoffs, where he turns into a different player and he acts a fool after the series and says all the wrong things and it blows up in his face, well, that could happen. And then, that's where he's telling him, I want to go to Miami and I want to play with Jimmy Butler. So, I'd rather have Jimmy Butler reunited with Joel Embiid up here. I just don't know if it's going to happen. So, 76ers are now down 12 in the third quarter. So, we're not going to pay a ton of attention to the game while it's going on. Because, frankly, a lot of people listening live right now, but a lot of people are listening on on YouTube at a later date that it probably already know the final score of the game. So so we'll keep you updated though to see what happens with the 76ers. Eagles stuff. I saw somebody put this up in the chat here. We actually had it last night. Steve Gallo, my producer, we welcome him into the show right now. We had it last night, and Steve, I said it to you last night. I said, Herb, we may not get to anything else with Herb, but it was the Asante Samuel comments about Donovan McNabb. It was on some
the plays. It say third down.
Here it is. You can play it. Yeah, play
it. 2 minutes to go, 0 timeouts. Here's the play, right? And they run the play with nobody out there, no defense or no one. And the guy just say he runs a dig, 10 yards and in. Donovan McNabb throws the ball into the dirt and doesn't complete the pass.
We've heard that
before. Me, as a professional coming from New England, these plays are 100% need to be executed at all times because we are professional. We do this every day. So these things would go on a lot in practice and no one would say anything. And so now I'm just sick of the dirt passes. It is driving me crazy. So I tootle right along, go upstairs. Hey, Coach Reed, I got to talk with you, man. I just got a problem out there at practice, Coach, when the offense, you always look at yourself first, blame yourself, the defense not executing, but the offense. What about when you're out there calling plays and quarterback, he can't complete the ball with no one out there. He's throwing the ball in the dirt. And Coach Reed looked at me in my eyes and said, Sante, it's your job. It's your job to discipline and reprimand any of the players on the team. That's y'all job. The leaders take care of that. I was so confused. I was looking at Andy like, so you're not gonna say nothing? When the edge.
All right, so let's stop it there for a second. By the way, now Asante Samuel is trumpeting the New England Patriot organization. Doesn't he hate Bill Belichick? Isn't he like the biggest shit talker on Bill Belichick? And I just seem to remember him saying that.
Yeah, I remember them not leaving New England in good graces.
But I mean, how many hours did we spend on the radio talking about Donovan McNabb worm burners? throwing the ball into the
that
dirt.
was my whole childhood. I listened to my dad and every other adult male in my life talk about how Donovan McNabb threw it at people's shins or in the dirt.
All right, well, here's more of Asante.
In the NFC Championship in Arizona, I can never forget. It was about 3 plays. Deshaun Jackson was wide open, ran right past everybody. And just like practice, the ball fell short right into the dirt on like 3 plays that were touchdowns. And we would have won the game easily. All he got to do is hit Deshaun Jackson 2 out of the 3 times, maybe 1 out of the times, and it changes everything. I mean, he was so wide open, man, he would still be running for a touchdown. So Andy Reid would have won more Super Bowls if we were able to apply more discipline to Donovan McNabb. If we were able to hold him accountable more and not treat him like a baby.
Wow. Well, yeah, it's I'm not. Asante is saying, I think, everything that we already know as far as applying more discipline to him or whatever. Sometimes you just get quarterbacks that are really good quarterbacks and are Pro Bowl level quarterbacks, and other times you get guys that are champions. And when the light is shining the brightest, they play their best football. They play their best whatever, right? And that was not Donovan. It just wasn't. Donovan was. I feel like that a lot of times I stick up for him in a lot of cases because people act like he was trash. And reality was that when he came into the league and he was drafted by the Eagles, he wasn't a great passer. I don't think he was ever really a great passer, but he was a damn good football player. And he made the Eagles better almost instantly. And Andy Reid played a big part of that or whatever. But early in his career, and as he got older, because I don't know how dedicated he was to taking care of himself, he had a really, really good career. He wasn't a champion. He had opportunities in big games where if you get better performances by your quarterback, you win a Super Bowl. And it's clear. It's clear. And like Nick Foles, he would never be able to start a season and lead you through the entire time. But for whatever reason, in that one game, Nick Foles had balls of steel and was able to get it done. So
you got to think about with Nick Foles, his best season was the year he collapsed in the playoffs against the Saints. His best regular season.
Yeah, the 27-2 year. Yeah, yep. Exactly. So, like,
and at that point, no one had a QB ratio in history like that. Everyone was like, "Oh, look what he did," and it's like,
right.
Okay, it's still Nick Foles.
Well, so what got? I would love to know this, and this is I'll put this on me, Donovan Chestpat, as he used to do. What was the context of did Asante just decide he was going to start talking about Donovan, or was there a reason why that he actually brought it up? Because all I saw was the clip. I saw no context to why he was talking about it. Not that it really matters. I'm just curious.
I mean, if you had to ask me, it had to be just talking about Andy Reid, like what could have been if he where would he rank in the grand scheme of things for head coaches if he had won here when he had all those opportunities.
So they ask Asante about you played for Andy Reid. Andy's in the Super Bowl, blah, blah. And he says, yeah, he would have had more Super Bowls if Donovan would have had more discipline. Well, there you go.
But like, you got to think like that at that time. There wasn't the QB carousel that you see now. That so okay, great. If you moved on from McNabb, hypothetically speaking, who are you getting? What are you replacing? Are you just bailing totally and drafting and starting over? And then what? That's the same. There's teams in this league that would die for that sustained success that we had in that era. So what? You're just going to give that up for a shot at a rookie that you're drafting at the end of the first round because you were good every year?
Yep. No, you weren't. You just had to hope that you were able to put it together. 2002 was definitely their best chance. We had Vince that said it right there. 2002, that was my favorite team of all. I mean, the TO year obviously was special, but 2002, you still had Bobby Taylor, you still had Troy Vincent, Trott was there. You still had the team that really, when Andy took over, like that was the first run at the Super Bowl. And if they can beat Tampa Bay, they're beating the Raiders and they're winning the Super Bowl. So that was that was their best shot. All right, so Mike Gill's going to join us coming up here in a little bit, live from Las Vegas. As you do have a Super Bowl that's coming up here, and I haven't tuned into a lot of the shows this week. I know like everybody's out at Radio Row, and it's kind of annoying. So Trotter was in Washington in 2002. You're right, because you had Levon Kirkland playing in that. Good catch there, Vince. Sorry. So I've been to 2 Super Bowls. I was both Eagles Super Bowls. Some of these radio shows, I listen to a lot of local radio, and right now there's a lot of local radio shows that they send their guys out there. That's not something WIP's ever really done. That's not something that the Fanatic has ever done. Like from the DC station, Brian Mitchell, who's been doing radio down in DC. I see he's out there. Last year when I was out at the Super Bowl, I saw all like shows from Chicago, shows from Boston, shows from the Boston shows from the Sports Hub up there. They're out in the Super Bowl just to go out to the Super Bowl. But I just don't think the people at WIP. I always wanted to do it. I love doing a Radio Rows. I love going out to the Super Bowl. But we only went when the Eagles were in the Super Bowl. So that was last year in Phoenix. And of course, 2018 in Minneapolis. But let's shoot it out to Las Vegas. And we'll join my buddy Mike Gill. He's the afternoon drive host for 97.3 ESPN. It looks like he's on Radio Row right now. What's up, Gill?
I'm on Radio Row. I never left. I just stayed here.
I was wondering what you were going to do. Well, I appreciate that, man. What's going on?
Well, I figured if I left, I may have overindulged, and I didn't want to make a bad impression to your prestigious audience.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'd heard from Northeast Philly on last night. So, you had told me this. I was on your show last week. This is your first time in Las Vegas. Is this correct?
In Vegas. I've never been to Vegas before. Yep, first time.
What do you think? I mean, because I had said this earlier. I've been to Vegas so many times, but during big fight weekends, like a Floyd Mayweather weekend, it's too much. I almost don't want to be there, so I couldn't imagine what Vegas is like Super Bowl week.
Well, I mean, I live in Atlantic City, so I'm in casinos all the time. So, like, a lot of people come here, and the casinos are like the glitz, and you're like, holy mackerel. So I'm in casinos. Like, I do my show every Monday at Ocean, and Thursdays I do Tropicana. But these casinos are massive. Like, It's another level of, like, it just, this. You've been at Radio Rows, like, the walk from the Luxor to Mandalay Bay, where Radio Row is, they're like, oh, they're connected. You can get, it was like 2 miles to walk here. It's gigantic, dude.
And you think it's going to be 5-10 minutes because you can see it, right? You're like, oh, well, it's the casino right next door. But then you're walking and walking and walking. Sometimes just to get from your room out of the casino will take you 15 minutes.
I swear, they get to my room last night. The girl's like, here's your key, silver elevator, make a right. It took me 10 minutes to get to the silver elevator. I'm like, what in the world? And then, so I open up the windows. I look out the windows last night. Would you know, Vegas, there's not a dark light anywhere. There's not one light on out the back window of the view that we have. It has to be the worst view in all of Las Vegas. My room.
Yeah, I've had the hangover roof view before, if you know what I mean, where he was out, he was stranded out on the roof. Yeah, normally I get that view. And I've stayed at the Luxor too, and that doesn't have great scenic views.
No, I opened the window. I said, my God, I don't see anything. I literally see nothing but darkness. I mean, this place is the Luxor right now. I guess Dorito must have the naming rights to it. The building looks like a huge nacho cheese Dorito.
So they have lights shining on it.
Well, it's like
it's a pyramid. It looks like a pyramid.
Yeah. Well, like the sphere has like different. They had the Eagles Super Bowl ring on it earlier, and like this must have like the same type of like imagery where they can change it, and it's just a huge Dorito.
Wow. Does it make you hungry when you look at your I love Doritos.
Well, I don't know that the whole pyramid is a Dorito. I think it's only one side of the pyramid. Like they're waiting for the sales team to sponsor the other sides to give them something different.
All right. So Mike, I mean, I saw you last year out there. I didn't realize that do you go every year out to the Super Bowl?
Mostly. We started, I went to New York, went randomly because it was like, up the road, and we had like a weird trade deal where we stayed for free. And, so we went to New York, and then we took a bunch of years off, and then we went to Minnesota when the Eagles were there. And then after that, we went to Atlanta and Miami, and then COVID came. So we took a couple of years off, and then we went last year to Phoenix, and then this year. We just kind of like made the decision. We're just going to kind of keep doing it.
Yeah, why not? Well, I mean, it all depends. Some hosts don't like. I worked, working with Ike for a lot of years. He would go when the Eagles were in the Super Bowl, but he didn't want to do the traveling. He didn't want to deal with it because you got to deal with a lot of BS. You got to fly. It's busy. You got to get to the hotel. Then you're doing Radio Row. It takes you out of your comfort zone. I love it. Doing Radio Rows. It's one thing if it's maybe during the Eagles season. I've done an Army Navy Radio Row during the Eagles season where it's kind of like, all right, we already have our guests that we do during a football Friday, and now we're adding all these other guests. Yeah. But for the most part, I love doing Radio Rows. They're awesome.
I do too, and I hear like they're like, oh, Radio Row, these people are just pushing like penis pills, and like I think it's, but that's where to me, like if you're a good host, you're getting more from the person than that. Like that's your job. Like our job is to not make it them pushing products. And they're like, well, they're on every station telling the same stories. Not if the host is doing their job. They're not. You are getting them to be unique to your market. Like we had Sean Merriman on today. He didn't play for the Eagles, but like I hope anyway, we got him to give great perspective on why the linebacker position is so important. And the Eagles don't value it. And like he played linebacker, but his style of play no longer fits the game today.
Right.
You know, that kind of stuff. And like you hear it coming from him and it's more impactful. And then, you know, like we've had other people that you can kind of like, okay, you played that position. The Eagles don't value that position. And like you can hear their perspective. So like, I'm not suggesting I'm a better host than anybody, but I would say that's my goal is to have the person tell a story, whether they're connected to the city or not, that can come back to Philadelphia and that you learn something. And like we just had Kenny Mayne on. I don't know that we had one conversation that had anything to do with anything.
That sounds like Kenny Mayne, yeah.
It lasted 20. Well, it's kind of started because I was in the bathroom. Should I go here? Right. I was in the bathroom and I was washing my hands and I just had that look up at the mirror and I said, my God, am I tired? Like it overcame with like, it hit me. And he was the guy washing his hands next to me. And then he happens to be the guy who's like doing the interview with me. I'm like, it just hit me that you were the guy at the sink next to me as I was washing my face and I got tired. But
well,
you know.
But you also so your show is in Atlantic City is a little bit it's a lot different than say what people do at WIP. You guys don't do phone calls, right? So you do text line. You don't do a lot of phone calls. Maybe you'll do some phone calls. But
yeah.
So to where at WIP, we're coming up with topics to try to drive phone calls. So what ends up happening is for a host that's used to doing it that way, now you're totally taking what the normal show is because you can't do that show when you do a Radio Row. You have to embrace being on Radio Row and just do all the interviews. That's all you have to do. Like you can't. And I would have program directors say to me, yeah, but like, why would you want to go do that? The people in Philadelphia are going to be like, well, what do I care? They're all the way in Vegas. Like the Eagles aren't in the Super Bowl. Why aren't they in Philadelphia with us? No, people actually, it's entertaining to hear something different every once in a while. Like you said with Merriman, I had Merriman on last year at Radio Row. He's a very good interview. A lot of energy. Yeah. He'll say stuff, but you're right. I mean, if you do interviews and you're asking cookie cutter questions, you're going to get a cookie cutter interview.
We had Fletcher Cox on today. Who else in the entire city had Fletcher Cox on today?
Nobody. What was he pimping?
He wasn't Tide.
Oh, he's been with Tide for a while because I had him on with Tide too. It's pretty much the only time he's nice to me. He's been nice to me in an interview was when he's selling a product. Because when he's not selling a product, he's not very friendly.
We asked him, is he planning on coming back? And he was very, I don't know. I don't know the answer. And then, but he did say, like, we asked him, like, what happened? Like, what would you, he said, he literally is like, I'm sad about what happened. Like, because I don't know the answer. But like, yeah, that's something that like, if we're not here, nobody's getting a chance to talk to Fletcher Cox, and our audience got to hear that because we were here. We're getting the comedian Bert Kreischer on Friday, and he's playing blackjack with Jason Kelsey right now. So like Friday, I now have the ammunition to be like, yo, did Kelsey tell you whether he's coming back or not?
That's awesome.
Because I'm here. So
is he now? Will he have his shirt? Will he take his shirt off when he does the interview with you, or
he might have it like this with the Bud Light can in his hand with doing the Jason Kelsey, because he's playing Atlantic City and somewhere down he's playing Hard Rock. So I was like, you know what, he's playing Hard Rock. I'll have him on, and then I happened to see him today, and he's playing blackjack with Jason Kelsey right now. So it kind of worked out. But
that is awesome.
It's hard to do your normal kind of shows and segments because I do have a lot of built-in segments in my show that are like kind of daily features and staples.
Sure.
And for this week, we kind of put them on pause, except for football at 4. We do the football at 4 every day, 4 o'clock. It's like mandatory Metallica.
There you go. Mike Gill, 97.3 ESPN afternoon drive. He's been, I believe, 5 decades now. He's been working down there.
You know what? I've been there way too long for my sanity. I feel like it's like 15 years I've been there.
How does this compare to, how would you rank this as far as other radio rows? You mentioned Minnesota. By the way, I hated last year in Phoenix. Last year in Phoenix to me was a dud. We didn't get great guests. It was too big. Maybe I'm just jaded because the only other radio row that I did for a Super Bowl was in the Mall of America in Minneapolis, which was a total fucking train wreck. There was no room. You're on top of each other, but it made it awesome. That was awesome. That was a great radio row.
All right, so they're the only 2 you've been to?
Yes.
Most of them are Phoenix. Like, this is a Phoenix. Like, they're just huge
conference
ballroom, conference rooms with table. Like, that's like, yeah. So this, I will say, so we're in the Luxor. We had to go to Mandalay Bay to go get your pass. It was a total pain in the ass. It was poorly constructed. It was we probably walked for 35 minutes to go get the pass and go around. And then it made you go get the pass and then backtrack to where you came from. You had to take the escalator down, go through a room, come back up, go through. It was terrible.
Who's the oddest or the biggest celebrity that you've seen in Las Vegas so far?
Well, the oddest I would say is that Carrot Top is here, and he was like, I have a picture. He looks like that. I don't know. I could bring the picture up. I took a picture. I said to my girlfriend, you've got to see Carrot Top. He legitimately looks like that. Are you ready?
Are you ready? Look at the screen. This is from last year.
It looks way better there. Look.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought you were going to say it, and I had it ready to go. He's a big Eagle fan. Did you know that?
I did not know that. He did not look good. Jerry, we saw Dan Marino, which is funny because one of the guys that's with us on our team and said, "You think Dan Marino's going to be there?" I said, "Why the hell would Dan Marino be there?" And sure enough, Dan Marino was here, and so I've never seen Dan Marino. Jerry Rice was here earlier. Tomorrow's the big day, so I don't know if you ever listened to. One of the things, John, I've kind of come to. You and I are very much alike. This is very odd. I've listened to a lot of stuff recently that you've been doing the show and some of the podcast. You're the guy who can remember the 97.5 or 950 lineup from 2008 and remember every day. That would be me. I can remember who was on what day part, every shift, that kind of guy. So, man, I lost my train of thought. Where was I going? Where did I start with this?
You see that? You remember day parts, but you forget what you were saying to get to that. I do the same thing too.
Yeah. Well, it is. What was I doing? Oh, man. Yeah. So anyway, what was I saying? I don't remember.
Well, you are in Vegas. Now, how much sleep have you gotten since you landed, would you say?
Well, I got here yesterday. We flew out of Philly. Oh, you were asking me about who the most famous people were, I think.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Who was that?
We flew out of Philly yesterday, landed at 7-ish, got here. Well, one of the guys with me, he didn't get here till 11:30 here, 2:30 in the East. So we were waiting up for him to get here because I had the key for the room. So we went out and had a couple pops later. Nothing crazy, just we're kind of waiting for him. But got back to the room I woke up at like 5:30 in the morning. So I've been up like now it's 9:30 at night, but I've been up since 5:30, which is really well, it's your time 9:30. It's only 6:30 here.
Yeah, you're gonna be in for it tonight. You're probably gonna go hard and then crash, right? Like after you get off with me, you're probably gonna go out for a little bit. Did you eat dinner yet?
No, we haven't eaten yet. We waited. Like I made the decision that I was going to do this before I got engaged in anything else.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. All right.
Well, yeah, and
trade deadline. 76ers tomorrow. Do they do anything? By the way, they're down 23, I believe, right now to the Warriors at home.
Well, Clay's in the building. Do they let him leave the building? I saw like that was a name that was out there, and then Murray's name keeping. This is like when I did my show. I was back in Atlantic City on Monday, and one of the conversations we were having is like, what do you do? We had Dr. Chow on today, by the way, about Embiid's knee,
right?
And he does not think Embiid will play the rest of the year. That's his medical opinion that he will not play the rest of the season. But if you're Daryl Morey, do you owe it to the team? Was it ever your intention to make a trade? Did you think we're just going to stick with this team? Because here's one of the problems I have, John. There's not a free agent next year that I'm all that excited about to have the cap space to go after to go get.
Right.
So what value is the cap space when I don't have a target?
Well, I have an answer because I agree. I don't think that they use in a free agency. I think that and the problem is you don't know what it is. But you'll have an opportunity to make a trade because you'll be able to do a sign and trade, right? Like you will be able to add somebody on another roster that's under contract. Because I agree with you. First of all, the 76ers aren't a destination. Philadelphia's not a destination in free agency unless you're Elton Brand or they're the only team that can offer you a max contract. And with teams that have salary cap space or whatever, like so you almost have to get a little bit lucky. But you have to hope that there's an elite-ish type player that the team and the player have decided need to move on. A lot of people are talking about Jimmy Butler now, possibly coming back. I don't see that happening.
We actually threw that out Monday. Butler, I said they took like Harris and Rocco's expiring deals so that they could be a player for a sign and trade. Right. And then you're saddled with Butler's deal and Morey's message, it's Maxey, Butler, and Embiid, and these are your next 3 years. Go as hard as you can, Embiid, with your buddy Butler. But would Pat Riley do that?
No, I don't think he would.
Probably. We came to the same assertion that he would not make that deal as well. But because the Heat are. I don't know how many times it's like the Phillies, how many times can you keep being the wild card team and thinking you're going to beat the Braves? Like at some point you're going to have to be the number 1 seed. Otherwise you're going to get bit.
Otherwise that's going to happen, right?
Yeah. Can the Heat continue to be the 8th seed, be the play-in tournament and think they can get to the NBA finals? Probably not.
All right. Well, listen, Mike Gill were there any last year in Phoenix? I don't know if you saw this, but the local prostitutes were holding a demonstration outside of where they had the media night. They had it was at the basketball arena, whatever that's called. We were walking by and they were like chanting. I was trying to remember what they were chanting, but they were saying, they were like, yell for the hose. And people were yelling for them because I guess they were mad because they were like arresting a lot of the prostitutes. Anyway, so Las Vegas is known for the
I have not seen any ladies of the night yet.
No.
Now, last night when we landed, it was raining and there was floods, so it would be a rough night to walk around in heels.
That wouldn't be good. Yeah, Vegas is getting their yearly rainfall in the week that you're there.
It is a torrential downpour last night, and the streets were flooded. So, but I thought maybe that would have brought everybody inside. It was not that good. So do you ever watch, do you ever listen to this is where I was going before with the fact that you remember these. Do you ever listen to Brian Curtis Press Box podcast?
No.
From The Ringer. Okay. Well, he does a whole column on Radio Row and the level of guests, you're a Monday level guest, you're a Tuesday level guest.
Right.
Thursday is you're the A+ day. Emmett Smith is supposed to be here Like Stephen A. Smith apparently is a Thursday level guest, but like the level of guests like keeps going up as the
Sure.
week progresses.
Yeah, what I learned was being at Radio Row on Monday is the biggest waste ever. Actually, last year, and I was so mad because they sent us. We were there Monday, and we left Thursday after. We actually had to leave early on Thursday from the show to get back because there's a Chickens and Pete's broadcast on Friday. So we literally like the best days and by the way, Thursday night, it's why I wanted to get you on before Thursday's the best night to go out too. Because that's when that's when they had the like last year Jaws had the party on Thursday night. He had a cigar party last year on Thursday night.
Right.
Which we left. We're headed to the airport at 5:00 Eastern time so we could catch a flight. It's like, well, there was like people don't start getting to town the Tuesday and Wednesday. Like you guys got in yesterday. A lot more people are arriving today. So yeah, Stephen A. and the big guests do Thursday because then some people don't want to be here on Friday. They're already out of town or they're
like we're doing our show Friday. We're doing our show Friday, and then I'm catching the red eye home. So I'm going to be miserable like Saturday, Sunday, but we will stay. We always do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then leave.
Yeah, I would leave on Friday after the show too. I don't want to go to the game. I don't need to be in town past that.
Yeah. So when I was in, I forget where it was, but so maybe Miami. I don't know. You were just doing Missinelli's podcast, so I'm walking through. It might have been Minnesota. I was walking out of there, and like Mike is sitting there, just like sadly eating a bowl of noodles at like some like Chinese restaurant all by himself. And I'm like, "Hey, Mike, what's that?"
I can so totally see it too.
How could somebody find me eating this sad bowl of noodles in Minnesota?
Oh, you're funny. Listen, have fun. Thanks for popping on.
Yeah, anytime, man. Good to see you.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
There is Mike Gill live from Las Vegas with an update. I wish I was out there just for Radio Row. Radio Row is so cool. As we'll bring my producer Steve Gallo back here. Radio Row is so cool, and I was so mad last year because they sent us out on Monday, and like I would go out on Monday, but then leaving on Friday. The Eagles were in the Super Bowl. It's not like you went out there for some other Super Bowl. The Eagles were in the Super Bowl. And we're
if you're going to stay
Thursday.
for a week, that's the week to do it.
Yeah, but like I would say, like, but then like they didn't want to say Chickies wants you there on Friday, and we don't have enough balls to say sorry, they're out in Vegas. We're not going to do it. So I just kept getting the like well, you come back early. It's better to come back early. And like, no, it's not. It's not better to. On Monday and Tuesday, there was nobody there. There's no guest there. So yeah, Vince is right. Jack stayed out because he had to. The idea was we would still get guests from Radio Row, and Jack would just like bring them over and put the headphones on, and then we would do the interview in Philly at Chickens and Pete's, which I don't even think we did, or if we did one of them or whatever. But
you could have swapped that around had it been while you're broadcasting your show to Chicky and Pete's and had them do a whole party.
Send Jack back to go to Chickies and Pete's and have a pep rally or something.
Check in from Chicky and Pete's.
The best night to go out of Super Bowl week's the Thursday night. Friday night's when the big parties happen.
To get time to recover before the game, all that.
So in Minnesota, I actually left Saturday morning, and the big parties are on Friday night. So it's cool to be out there on Friday night. Thursday night is probably the best night to go out, but Friday night is when you get the biggest parties. And I ended up going to and this is my brother-in-law who lives in Vegas, but he's a huge Eagle fan. So he came to Minneapolis with a couple of his buddies, and they got me into, I forget which, it wasn't a Maxim party, but it's something, Jamie Foxx, it was the Jamie Foxx party. Shaq was so it's like Shaq's DJing.
Diesel.
And you know what that means? He's there for about a half hour, and he comes up on stage for one song, and then he's out. So, but Shaq was there, and it was like so simple but awesome. They had bags and bags of McDonald's, Big Macs, quarter pounders with cheese. They even have filet of fish, regular cheeseburgers, and there's like 300 people just eating McDonald's. And you know that it's a very distinct smell a McDonald's. Like I can almost smell it right now what a McDonald's cheeseburger smells like. Or if you walk into a McDonald's, it's a very distinct smell. The entire place smelled like a McDonald's, which was pretty unbelievable. But
That sounds pretty miserable to me, actually.
you don't like McDonald's?
I couldn't even tell you the last time I ate McDonald's. I couldn't even tell you the last time I saw McDonald's.
Underrated. The Big Mac is the best burger still to this day. Underrated. It's lost on this in this younger generation. It's lost on you.
Baconator any day of the week over a Big Mac.
No, and I like Baconators. Believe me, I like a lot of burgers. I love fast food, the Five Guys, the whatever. I love all those burgers. But you give me a McDonald's Big Mac. You know what I used to do? It was actually when I worked with you. It's when I worked mornings with Ant and with Jamie. I used to go. I would leave work, and I would go to the McDonald's in Collegeville. And I would get, and this was just over like December. So for whatever reason, I'll put on 10 pounds in December because I just eat like a total slob. But I would buy 3 Big Macs, and I did it every day, probably for a month. Big Macs are 550 calories each. So I was ingesting 1,650 calories.
I'm surprised it's not higher.
I was actually surprised too, because you can go to a chain restaurant.
Sandwiches at least that.
I know. So 1,650 calories. But for breakfast, I would go to the Wawa and I would get the biggest coffee they've had. And then they had 2 for $3 Reese's peanut butter cup, the triple. So I would eat 6 Reese's peanut butter cups and a coffee for breakfast. And then I would have 3 Big Macs for lunch.
No wonder you had all the energy at 4 o'clock in the morning and I was still waking up.
Cheers. But then I crashed later. By the way, a lot of people commenting here on my different coffee mugs that I have. And I always have large coffee mugs. I don't know if you've noticed that. And this is a triple. I have the Ninja. I guess I need to do this. I have the Ninja where you can brew the regular size cup, the big cup, or you can do the half pot of coffee or the full pot of coffee. Every mug that I have for the most part is big enough to hold a triple. Or at least any mug that you'll see me drinking on here. I need the triple. I need the travel size.
Are you drinking caffeinated coffee right now?
Yeah. It's hard for me not to do it, dude. But see, that's the problem. And here's what I've learned. When I was working the national 10 to 2 shift, so for CBS Sports Radio for the last year, and then before that for 2 years, I worked overnights, but I worked 10 to 2 on Sunday nights, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Sunday nights. So I would have a huge cup of coffee right when I started, and then I would drink probably half to a full energy drink. But then by 2 o'clock, I was able to pretty much go to sleep right away. The problem with this is I'm drinking this right now. It's 9:42. I still have a good half of the amount of coffee left. I'll be up till easily midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. We're done in 25 minutes, and you're
and I'm still drinking.
It's not like the old days where you have 4 more hours.
No, and that's what I forgot when I drink it. But I'd be really dragging right now. One night I tried to not drink it, and I was lethargic. I didn't have much, and it is true. My daughter,
the girls tired you out of basketball practice.
Well, it's not just that. The baby she's like halfway stuffed up, and she's gotten into this thing. And if you ever have children one day, Steve, you'll know this. That like so you have to like when they're sleeping, when you're sleep training them, then like you have to. They don't like it. They want to be held and rocked and then put down. But the problem is, then they always want that.
These AirPods have noise cancellation, so pop those in, go in another room, don't hear a thing.
Well, but see, if the baby monitor, I don't like her here. It's Daddy,
yeah,
Daddy, because they cry for me because I go up and I get them. My wife never gets up and get them. I go up and get them, but she can't handle it. So we're back to it because she's been sick and she hasn't been able to sleep. So she's like sleeping she's sleeping on me in the lazy boy. So now she's like a little bit congested. So I'm like, no, you're not laying in the lazy boy on top of me. 3 hours she was up last night between 12 and 3. 3 freaking hours she was up last night. She cried for a full hour without letting up. It was unbelievable. So that's really why that's why I have the extra large coffee tonight. Vince says to drink some pre-workout. You're probably a guy. You're a meathead. You're a guy that can appreciate a pre-workout, Steve. Is that correct?
I'm actually not a big pre-workout guy. I do it. I have it. I take it when I'm trying to do something I haven't done before, and that's about it. And everything else, I try to keep it pretty normal because you know me, I'm jittery as it is. So adding pre-workout to the mix is
Yeah,
always
you
my
don't need
favorite,
the
feeling.
coffee. You're naturally on coffee. I
Yeah,
took pre-work.
I get coffee like 2-3 times a week,
That's all you need.
depending on. Yeah, because like I'll get like a Dunkin' Rewards, and I'll be like, all right, yeah, caramel coffee sounds great right now.
I took pre-workout one time. It was during COVID. I actually got in pretty good shape because I was home working out. I did beach body, and I got nothing. You have nothing else to do, so I was.
When was the last time you had a beach body? Actually clarified as a beach
Then
body.
2020, 2021. Before that, 2004, probably. But I actually got myself in pretty good shape. So I was like, all right. So like you were saying, like you're trying to take it to the next level. So I'm like, oh, let me get a pre-workout. And dude, I followed the directions, and I was throwing up probably 20 minutes after I took it. Like I'm like, all right, ready to go. My skin starts crawling, and I'm like, oh my god, I feel like my skin's on fire. Should I used to whatever the fuck they put in that stuff. And then I'm laying down on the floor, trying not to throw up, and then I'm just throwing up. And I'm like, this was a great workout today. I'm not working out. So that was the last
throwing
time
up works out the core. Throwing up works out the core muscles.
Yeah, it helped my. I mean, all right, we'll get to some reaction from Herb and Mike Missinelli yesterday. But so just so you know, Steve.
Yeah, I get this one all the time.
Yeah, but your hair's tame compared to what I remember it being or what it usually
Johnny
is.
Robbins was like up to here.
Yeah, no, your hair actually isn't too absurd right now. I've seen it much worse or much better, depending on how you look at it.
It can go either way. I'm currently growing it out. I haven't cut my hair since early December, late November ish.
Well, look, I mean, it looks great. It does.
Yeah,
nice full hair. You know, I had hair restoration, so my hair it isn't styled tonight, so it doesn't look as good. But no, you have nice. Now, you hair restoration, or is that natural hair?
Nah, natural hair. Gift from my mom.
There you go. All right. So yesterday I was on. I was on the Mike Missinelli podcast, and then Herb from Northeast Philly joined us on the show. And as we were mentioning before, you never really know where it's going with Herb. You just know that the things that he tries to talk about within a conversation, people were saying to me, I should have literally gotten up and left the screen and see how long he would have just talked to himself before he realized that he wasn't there. Probably a half hour. You think? I was
trying to think of what we would set the odds at, like over under. Do you think he makes it 10? Do you think he makes it 10 minutes before he realizes that you haven't said anything back?
I think you have to make it 7. You know, like 10
it's
minutes.
It's like one of those tricky borderline things. It depends on what story he's getting into. Like, you get him going, and then it's just like, all right, let me dip. It could go on for a while.
He's talking about growing up, and he's talking about, it's like, Herb, nobody cares about this stuff. What are you talking about? You're talking about how you got like arrested for racketeering for being a bailiff in the court system, and you're talking about something. But anyway, so next time we have him on, I say we do it. We talk about it before, and we put a stopwatch on him, and then I leave the screen, and we see how long he lasts.
Oh, done. We can play Price is Right closest without going over rules with guessing on
right. Agreed.
We could probably even set up a stopwatch on screen, replace you with the stopwatch. Yeah. And so he's looking at it and he'll have no idea what's going on.
My friend that does sports radio hates Peter King and thinks he's really boring. So one of the afternoon show on his station had Peter King on, and he took a chunk of it and he said, "Can I run from my seat to my car and back by the time Peter King's done answering the question?" And he made it back. It was like a 3.5 minute answer.
Oh my God.
It wasn't his show. It was the afternoon show, but they just let him go on and on for 3.5 minutes. All right. So Herb was unbelievable. But I was on Mike Missinelli's podcast, and I had a bunch of people reach out to me saying that they really enjoyed it. That like people in radio, my Uncle Jamie, who is a big radio fan and has listened to me, and I think actually watches this. He's a fan of this. He thought it was good. So a lot of people reached out that I think if you listen to me on with Mike when I worked with him, you probably really enjoyed it because you remember it. And then you're hearing some behind the scenes stuff, like how the Skip Bayless thing happened and kind of how Mike came to the station and how he got there and how I worked with him and everything else. I wasn't sure after I did it, right? I can't say that I felt like I was on during the interview. Just like, Steve, when we talk about athletes, and sometimes let's talk about pitchers for a second. And sometimes the pitcher just doesn't have it that day. I can't locate their fastball, doesn't have the same velocity. Happens with all athletes. Sometimes you just like they have bad days, right? And it's the same thing whether you're a radio host or you're a carpenter or whatever. Some days from sleep or stuff that's going on in your personal life, or just because like you're just not having like. And I didn't feel great yesterday, so I left the interview being like, well, I hope that was okay. But I mean, you listened to it. It was all right.
No, it was more than all right. It was 100% more than all right. No, it came across great.
Well, some people agreed and some people didn't. Steve has tracked down some comments from.
Since we just did the positive, the first one's positive right off the bat, and talk about exactly what you were saying.
Oh, that's very nice. Now, can people see this on Instagram Live that are watching this on Instagram Live? They can see this.
They should be able to.
Okay,
whatever we're saying, they should be saying.
All right. Well, there you go. Oh, well, thank you very much, Joseph. They were great times when we were on the air together.
This is where they start getting mean.
Well, I did see this one as well. Did he come across as being arrogant in the interview? I just thought he came across like that's Mike.
For me personally, no. that was more tame Mike that I'm more used to.
Yeah, I don't know if these are some of the comments, but I saw like, oh, Mike's such a narcissist, and it's like, but it's his podcast. Of course, he's supposed to talk about himself.
He's driving the show.
Yeah, he's supposed to talk about himself. Like he's not going to interview me for 35 minutes, a Q&A with me for 35 minutes. We were talking back and forth about a lot of this stuff.
It was a long time. I thought you were just going to be on for like 15 minutes. It was at least a half an hour.
Yeah, it was. It was right around a half hour. And I mean, I don't know. I thought Mike did great. There was nothing that Mike did that I was worried that I came off as kind of being boring or whatever. Is there anyone that hates Eskin more than Missinelli? The answer is no. There is no. Mike hates Howard Eskin. Well, Howard.
I was going to say, which Eskin are we talking about?
Mike hates Howard more than anybody that I've ever known that hates somebody else, if that makes sense. For like, it's one thing if like for like non-real reasons, you know what I mean? They work together. That's why they hate each other. And they're probably more alike than they want to admit.
That's why they don't like each other.
Right. So by the way, with Howard, I worked with Howard. It was my first show on WIP when I worked nights. I worked with Howard actually for the first hour. I worked with him Tuesdays and Thursdays. I couldn't say, I mean, I can't say any more positive things about Howard than I did. Howard's great. I love Howard. And I'm not telling you that if I would have worked with him when Mike did, or back when I was working with Mike going up against Howard, that I would have liked him. But Howard has always been great to me. And in a lot of ways that, I won't even get to on the air, but just professional things where I remember one time in particular when I was having contract problems and like really like the station was, I was really unhappy because like my contract was expiring and they weren't even like talking to me because they were trying to get the morning show thing done. And I was giving them their space, but I'd become annoyed because it's like, yo, like what's going on with me? And I said something on the air and Howard was like, you're better than that. It's like, don't do that. And like, don't do that. You're better than that. And he was right. He was right. I was just like, I was mad. And it was my way to kind of take out a little bit of frustration by saying, hey, I'm a free agent coming up here in a couple months. And like, so like Howard's really, really cool. He's been very, really cool to me. And I think he's a great guy. And, Mike and I have had our differences. if you listen to the podcast, he more or less said like, well, you worked with me for 4 years, have at me. And I don't have anything negative to say about Mike. Working with Mike was challenging at times, but the 4 hours that we were on the air every day was some of the best radio that I've certainly ever done. And it was, that show changed Philadelphia radio. It ended up propelling 950, which became 97.5, which then made WIP say, we have to move off of the AM and go to the FM, which wiped out WISP. And that was Mike Missinelli. It was. So I'm so proud of what that show accomplished. And Mike is, when you're looking at Philadelphia radio, especially sports radio, you have Angela and you have Mike, and then you have everybody else. I mean, it's not even close. All right. Do we have some more comments there, Steve?
Why didn't this guy just move closer to the station? And the second one and the next one also ties into that.
Well, Steve, listen, it's something that I heard quite a bit. And just so you know, like after I signed off, or after I announced that I was leaving, I didn't look at one comment on Instagram, on the video that WIP put out there. I don't look at my Twitter mentions because I already know it's going to be there. You know what I mean? So unless you're okay with seeing people shit on you and try to make you mad, I just kind of stay away from it. And I had a lot of people tell me like, oh, like people were saying this and people were saying that. Yeah, I was fortunate to be able to work that job for for as long as I did.
When did you start there? 18?
What's that?
When did you start there? 18, 2018?
The day after the Falcons lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. So 2017, February 2017.
Okay.
I wasn't going to move, and really, like the commute. I mean, really, it's about the commute and just kind of where I was to the last 2 years of working there, which was just like, I was just burnt out doing it, and I just wanted to do something different. So, and also like the whole 6-hour job thing. Yeah. Like I'm not pouring concrete 8, 9, 10 hours a day. My dad's a contractor, right? Like he's still 72 years old. He's still working, right? I'm not out up on a roof. I'm not landscaping. I'm not doing any of that stuff, but like, yeah, like, okay, 2-hour commute, 4-hour show.
And that's the 4-hour job is oversimplification too. You're not just going in, sitting down in front of the microphone at 1:59, 2 o'clock, you have to be like, hey, it's John Marks at WIP or afternoon show.
When did I arrive in mornings when you worked with me? When was I at work in mornings?
I was getting in at 4. You were in at least an hour before that. So, and the show doesn't go until 6. And then it's on until 10. And we're there for another hour, spitballing ideas for the next day, cutting up stuff from the show that day, thinking about ideas for the rest of the week. It's not just a 4-hour thing.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess my point is that I was fortunate to have that job, but like, just because, and this is what I don't, this is, I mean, I guess I understand it, but I don't, is that like, there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? Like I can do other stuff and still be successful. And like this right here, I don't know what this YouTube show is going to develop into. I don't know if I'll go back to terrestrial radio. I don't know if there'll be a company out there that's interested in me doing something like that. I don't know, but like, it's kind of what I want to find out. I could have very easily done another 5 years at WIP and made a good living and had fun for the most part. But I mean, like, I just want, like, I needed something different in my life. And that's really what it came down to for a lot of different reasons. And the commute sucked. What do you want me to say? And I wasn't moving closer to the station. I like where I live. I like where I live a lot. Any more mean?
We got one nice, talking about how it was you guys getting back together was great. It never gets old. So I don't know how much we need to touch on that. And then this is the last one, talking about you working 24 hours a week again.
I know. Yeah, 24 hours on the air there, Dan Who, whatever your name is.
It was
24 hours a week to speak.
You know me with reading. There's no way I'm reading that.
Yeah. Dan Who you? Joe Giglio, when he was working the BetQL network 3 hours a day, and we're still working nights. So he was working a 4-hour night shift, and he was doing 3 hours of national radio a day. He's doing 7 hours of radio a day. Let me tell you, like, I mean, I don't even know how your mind would operate after that, especially talking about betting for 3 hours of the day. Talking about sports betting. So you got to have an opinion on like the golf tournament that's coming up this weekend, who you like in the golf tournament.
That's like all I listen to is betting content.
Yep.
Yeah. Keeping up that degenerate moniker going.
Yeah. Mike D says my favorite hour of the day. Thank you, Mike D. Appreciate it. Sounded like you'd definitely get back in the radio in April if the offer was right. True or false? All right. So hypothetically, if the Fanatic in April came to me and said, hey, we'll offer you X and X dollars to work X and X shift, probably, yeah. Do I anticipate that happening? No, I don't. No, I don't. I don't know. Like, honestly, I don't know. I really haven't. I spent the first month of not working kind of just being like, all right, I'm not even going to think about what I'm doing going forward. And then month number 2 is when I said, listen, I got to get serious about something. And it was going to be this. So we do this every Monday through Friday now at 9:00. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Dude, we'll see what happens. Like, if I can work with Steve Gallo every night, I may not need to make money for my family. This may be enough right here. I've been trying to work with you since you were my intern, and I could never get you hired anywhere. I don't know what the fuck you were doing to not get hired.
I was thinking about it earlier. That was 10 years ago. Almost.
No, it was almost 10 years ago.
But 2015 is when that started.
Yeah. Any more?
Nah, that's about it. That's all you got for
all right
takes on you.
Well, I think
Sixers just went final, lost by 23.
Yeah, the last time I looked up, they were behind 27. So that's they're in big time trouble, and now you got to actually worry about them sliding. I was looking at the standings earlier today. Sometimes, even though you're still you still look at their record and you're like, all right, well, they're still 11 games over 500. The problem is, actually, Miami is only 3 games over 500. The problem is they've been really bad without Embiid. I thought they'd be much better without Embiid. So maybe they do.
Well, they also are out they're out Milton, and Harris has been banged up. Maxey's banged up.
And this is a bad stretch for him. You're absolutely right.
If you have the other starting 4 without Embiid, you're probably looking better.
Yeah, I agree.
But I actually thought of something earlier. To tie this back to that betting content, people are talking about trading for Jimmy Butler. The Heat are odds favored to win their division right now. So why
they're not going to Pat? Cool. But also, Pat Riley's not trading Jimmy Butler for expiring contracts. This is one of these things.
There's a reason why they compete every year.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. Like, if you're going to give up Jimmy Butler, you're going to get back some valuable pieces. If they're draft picks or there's something else. Pat Riley's not going to trade you. Oh, yeah, we'll just take expiring contracts. Why the hell would he do that? Jimmy Butler would have a lot of interest around right there. All right, so we have that.
Who would be your dream pickup if, obviously, long-term deal, if they could pull it off tomorrow? Who would it be?
I don't even know how to answer that, because I don't know. Like, this team has me, and I used to be frustrated with it. Now I'm just kind of sad, because you watch a season and it's like, maybe this is the year. This looks different this year. Nick Nurse, they're playing differently. They play with a little bit of a different edge. Nick Nurse seems a lot sharper than Doc Rivers as far as being a new coach coming in year 1. And then Joel Embiid has a serious knee injury, and he's now going to be out for the season. So I mean, honestly, I don't know.
That was information that we got earlier on the show that Mike told us that.
Oh, that's right. See that?
Yep.
Hey, breaking. All right, couple other things. Did you have because I have I want to pull up his name here, because I'm learning, like a lot of people are. Or maybe not a lot of people, but I'm learning a lot about YouTube right now. I really have never, outside of watching music videos or whatever on YouTube, but I never spent a lot of time on YouTube. But I had somebody reach out to me and say, like, hey, Cody from Wilmington, Delaware. So he said, hey, like, if you use regular music, so I had said that I need an intro. You put together an intro, but I wanted some music so it didn't sound dry. And Cody was like, yo, like, you copyright stuff, they don't let you do that. So he sent me some original beats they made and you did an intro that had some music as well. But just email me, and if there's people out there that have original stuff or whatever, just email me. And there it is, johnmarksmedia@gmail.com with all your comments. Email me as Cody. Do we have it? Did you take a listen to any of the music there, Steve? You may not have it up, which is fine.
I was gonna say I didn't even see it.
No,
I didn't get a chance to check it out.
Well, Cody was on here tonight and he checked it out. But so send me your stuff or whatever. So Steve, so this was from before. You have the pic of the Dorito from when Mike Gill was on. He said that the casino looked like a Dorito. Man, I wish I would have seen that. Could have played it in real.
Yeah, I had it after he was done talking about it, so I didn't want to just throw it up on the screen in the middle of him talking about something completely different.
Does it look like a Dorito?
Yes, it actually does.
Do you like Doritos?
I love Doritos. I have 2 bags in my.
All right, so Cool Ranch or nacho cheese?
Change up the sweet and spicy.
Nah,
I'm all in on the purple bag.
I don't like the new varieties. I bought them and they just, I don't know, they taste. I just crave a Cool Ranch when I taste one of these other ones. I
have the sweet and spicy, and I have Cool Ranch in my cabinet.
So well, the MSG is what keeps the MSG keeps you coming back for more. But my every day in lunch, because I pack the kids' lunch in the morning, and they both request Doritos pretty much every day. But yeah, so email me with anything you have like that. Also, I put this out there, and a lot of people reached out about being a producer. And Steve, you have a commitment tomorrow night, and I don't know if I'm going to bring anybody else in tomorrow night, but unfortunately, like when I put this out there, it was almost as being a bit to where we could bring different people on. But then Steve reached out, and I wanted Steve to be my actual radio producer before, and never ended up working out. And he texted me, and was like, "Yo," and I'm like, "Oh my God, like this makes perfect sense." But it doesn't mean that we can't bring on somebody else to do bits and things like that. So I started responding back to people saying like, hey, if you want to be involved in the show, tell me why. Not just because you love listening to me on the radio and you're a big Philly sports fan. Like, what can you offer? What bits can you be a stuttering John type that interviews people? This is the Luxor is kind of a dump too. I stayed out there one time. It doesn't surprise me. It looks like a Dorito. That's for sure. OG Wade, I actually meant to text him today. I am going to bring on OG Wade, and I'm going to ask him to explain why Jalen Hurts, we shouldn't be worried about Jalen Hurts. We'll almost do like a topic of, are you worried about Jalen Hurts going forward? Because, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't be, at least a little bit. We thought we were getting a Super Bowl quarterback. He looked like that last year.
I would love to hear his take on if he's going to backpedal on Jalen Hurts being the number 1 quarterback.
He is not. He is not.
I'm a Jalen Hurts guy. I couldn't stand Carson Wentz. Never liked him. I ate crow after his should have been MVP year, and then he went back, and I was all in on reverted back to what I thought about in the beginning. So I was all in on Hurts. I think it's a fluke year. I think the knee got to him. I think once he gets his mobility back, and that'll bring his game back.
All right. So is he closer to what we saw in the playoffs in 2022 than what he is
compared to this year?
Yeah, yes. But he had
100%.
that stretch. He had that stretch where he was coming, the Bills game where he was going back and forth with Josh Allen. He was tremendous during that stretch.
Right. You don't just lose. Like, I mean, I guess you can't just lose it. Carson Wentz just lost it. A couple other guys have just lost it. But
I don't know what I think it was.
He was playing well enough earlier in the year. I thought it was a lot of play calling, like trying to figure out stuff going on. And then you think that Bills game is they peak, they come back in that dramatic fashion. Like, they don't just do that because he's not throwing the ball well.
No, but also the 49ers solved the Eagles. And remember, Bosa said, here's the blueprint to beat Jalen Hurts. And it was.
And then look what happened after they played the Niners.
Right. And the problem is that
tape's out there.
Didn't seem like the coaching staff had a lot of answers.
No, I don't think Brian Johnson was the guy making adjustments too much. You want to hear a crazy stat?
What?
They ran the most wide receiver screens in NFL history in one season. Guess how many yards that went for net yards. Those
The
it was
Eagles
600
ran
something.
The
They
Eagles
ran
ran the
600
most
something
wide receiver screens. How
Yep.
many?
600 something.
What?
Yep.
When? Last year?
Apparently under this offensive.
Under this regime, you're saying? Yeah, because
Yeah.
it could have been 600 last year. All right, how many yards?
Negative 28.
Stop it.
Swear to God.
Who had this stat? Baba Booey? Come on.
I saw it on Twitter like right after the season. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. There's no way. And it just stuck with me. I was just like, I'll see if I can find it for another day, but I'll have to backtrack to find it. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I'm like, negative 28 yards.
All right. Well, here's the other thing, and this is something to chew on and to think it over. It's got to be a fake stat. I agree with Vince.
Let's see if I can find it.
There we go. Not real. All right. Listen, now on Friday, next time I see you, will be on Friday. You're gonna have to prove that stat, or you're gonna have to
I will gladly search for it.
All right.
It was the most asinine thing I've ever seen in my life.
We need a name for the show. All right, and I would love for people to comment this on the YouTube once it gets archived, or even here on the chat. But again, this is something that we'll have to figure out next week, because I just didn't. For a while, I was worried that they would try to shut it down because it would violate the non-compete. But then when I read further into the contract language, I'm like, no, this isn't a podcast. It's not audio. It was audio focused. I can't do an audio focused. That's a competitor. I can do videos. This isn't audio focused. So I was like, oh, I can actually do a show. I can actually bring on sponsors and advertisers if I want to. So the show needs a name. All right. So think about it. I have one or two. They're probably favorites in the clubhouse, but ultimately I want the audience to sign off on it. I don't want people to hate it. It was actually a name that I was going to do for my night show, and Miss Anelli actually shit all over it. And I was pressured not to do it. So there you go. So Vince said that it was proven not to be real. So did it have a blue check mark? The blue check marks don't matter these days, Steve.
I don't buy them. Yeah, I don't even go look at the check marks anymore. It don't mean anything.
Man.
It wouldn't be the first time I was duped by Twitter, but
nope.
I remember I fell for the fake Adam Schefter years ago with Megatron tearing his ACL in training camp, and I had him in fantasy, and I was throwing my phone across the room, and then my buddy was he's the one that retweeted it, and I couldn't believe I fell for it.
Do you remember what he used? The fake Adam Schefter? How it tricked people?
It was the same. It was the same.
It was
picture.
a darn. It was ADARN, which looks like Adam.
Oh. No, I didn't notice. I thought it was just angry Adam Schefter or something like that, but it came up as the handle was the same, but when it got retweeted, it said Andrew tweeted by whatever his name is, Schefter.
Darn Schefter.
Blanking.
We live, we hot. No, we can't steal Andy from Deptford, who stole it from somebody else's show name. All right, we'll get into that next week. We'll figure out the name for the show. We'll see if we're going to bring in more talent to the show. Because listen, I mean, we're growing, Steve. We're growing. It's going to be a huge success very soon.
Can't wait.
What do you do? You go to the Flyers game tomorrow night? I forget where you're going.
No, I'm going. I have a dinner tomorrow night, and I'm going to the Flyers game on Monday with my parents. That was a Christmas present.
Who are they playing?
Phoenix Coyotes, or Arizona Coyotes, I should say.
Nice. All right.
They were another team I rooted for as a child when Brian Boucher got traded there. So it was that's a good game. Let's go. They have a good shot at winning. They should win. So
yep. All right. Well, listen, have fun. I'll talk to you on Friday. Everybody, thanks for watching again. Subscribe at John Marks Media. That is on as my wife is text bombing me. Are you finished? I can't keep my eyes open. Bella's whining for you. Oh, so I got to go up there and I got to take care of the kid. Unbelievable. Anyway, at John Marks Media, subscribe. We're almost at 1,200 subscribers in less than a month, which is awesome. And shopeverylittledetail.com. That is my wife's website, and she has amazing shirts, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, sports stuff. She makes custom-made stuff. Shopeverylittledetail.com. Steve, thank you.
Anytime, my man.
All right. Talk to you on Friday, everybody. Have a good night. Talk to you. See you.